Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Turnbuckle Sessions. I am your host, Thomas Montalto, and joining me today, we're going to have the first episode of the Turnbuckle Sessions. What was it called, Mike? The historical homage, right?
Yes, good
Yes.
recap there. I like it. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking back at classic matches we might have not seen since we were a kid, matches we might have never seen. We're going to analyze. We're going to see if some of the ones we did see years ago hold up. And Mike's going to be introducing me to a whole bunch of stuff that I've never even seen before because of living in a WWE bubble for so long. And we'll probably be doing this every few weeks. It's going to be a fun little project. So make sure you check it out. Mike's going to send me a match. I'm going to send him a match. And I think to get started, we should start with the match I sent you.
I'm more than down to do that. I just want to add to that you have a very foggy existence with ECW, WCW, NWA. And I'm just here to introduce you to some beautiful wrestling because they all had their ups and downs. And I think that the match I picked tonight is definitely on par with beautiful wrestling, if you could not agree. But I'm absolutely down to jump right into the match you sent me, and I'd like you to introduce that.
Yeah, so what I chose was a match I remember from when I was a kid that I hadn't seen in probably at least 30 years. I'm talking about Tito Santana versus Greg the Hammer Valentine inside of the steel cage for the Intercontinental Title in Maryland, where Tito Santana recaptured the title from Greg Valentine after his knee surgery.
Yeah.
So pretty historical match. I remembered as I was a kid. And not only did I send the match to Mike, but I had to go back and watch it myself because, again, I wanted to see how it held up. I was a little disappointed because what I did not remember was that it was voiceover. There wasn't actual live commentary. And for me, that took away from the match.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was Gorilla Monsoon doing a voiceover
from
the Coliseum video.
Dull Gorilla Monsoon. It wasn't hyped up Gorilla. It was just Gorilla Monsoon talking like this. Greg the Hammer Valentine and Tito Santana are fighting in the steel cage. It was very, very monotone. It wasn't a bad match though. I enjoyed it.
I feel like the voiceover part of it took away from it big time. The crowd was way into it. You can hear Jimmy Hart at ringside with the megaphone
laughing. I heard him laugh a bunch of times.
It was a solid match. But again, like I said, to hear the voiceover when they showed it on TV back in the day, I don't remember the voiceover. Like, I don't know if they just showed the last minute of the match, but as a kid, every time a new WWE VHS Coliseum video came out, I was at the video store renting it. So I remember the match from when I was a kid. And like Mike said, it was a solid match. Mike, was this the first time you saw that match?
It was. It was absolutely the first time I see that match.
Wow. Okay. So what'd you think? Give us some feedback on your thoughts.
You know what? We'll start off the top. I thought the entrances were good. I thought there was a good feedback, good solid, establishing that it's a steel cage match. I felt like they did a really good job with that. Tito's and Greg are huge dudes, both in volume and, fandom. So people were already eating it up. I think this might be the best Greg the Hammer Valentine match I've ever seen. To throw that out there. So yeah. And my only flaws with it was for a steel cage match, there was no color, which is a little crazy. And then but I understand because it's WWF.
But back in that day they bled,
but not a lot. It wasn't every match, maybe something else happened on the card that I'm not, noticing, that maybe they did color earlier or later, so they didn't want to do double color. I get that. But there was a lot of the loose ropes throw me off every time I watch old wrestling. And it happens with every promotion. Like the ropes are just loose back then, so watching Greg the Hammer climb up to the second rope and it's drooping down to the first, the bottom rope level. It's a little silly to look at now, seeing as, we see all this high flying stuff, but I thought it was a great match. I thought Greg the Hammer Valentine really established himself as the bigger, badder guy of this match. He was rocking that kind of heel, vibe throughout the whole match. He was very dominant. Tito barely got in any offense. When it was, but he did when it was necessary. I loved. I really like the working around the cage. They didn't really tease too much of them climbing over the top until towards the end, but they had that a lot of door spots, which was nice.
Yes,
Jimmy Hart
love the door
screaming,
spots.
laughing. Yeah, the door spots, and that was looking at it now compared to like what a normal cage match would look like in the WWE aspect. I felt like the door spots were done better. So I felt like they did a lot of good stuff back then. Tito finally picking up, getting his stuff in was good. And then I loved that finish. I thought the finish was awesome. Just, he's climbing out of the door. And then Tito kicks the door in his face, and then he falls down, and it was great. It was a really solid match. Again, it was weird seeing it was such a short cage match for it being for the Intercontinental title. Like it was, I mean, it must have been like 12 minutes, something like that.
Yeah,
tops.
it was somewhere around there, right? Yeah. What I remembered, what stood out to me as a kid was the Tito climbing down a cage and kicking the door. And sending Valentine back. That was exciting. So
that was
getting
great.
to relive that was fun. I believe if you looked in the ring, there was already blood in the ring. But
Okay.
as a kid watching WWF, one of the things I always got excited about cage matches was you knew there was going to be blood.
Yeah,
so
that's what I went into it with. So I was figuring this is going to be a good, because I've seen Greg Valentine bleed a lot. I've seen Tito bleed. I was hoping that there was going to be, but it never got to that. It really didn't need it though. That didn't take away from the match. That it didn't. But it's a cage match. There should be some color when there's steel
color in the
cage
match,
especially back then.
And I didn't remember that there wasn't blood in it until I watched it. And I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. Because when WWE does cage matches now and there's no blood, I'm like, what's the purpose? Why are you having a cage match? Like, if you're not going to do blood, don't have a cage match. It's
but again, I didn't think it was bad. The worst part of the whole thing was I seen Greg Valentine's ass like 4 times during the match. And I was like, God, he's pasty. He should have tanned. Like, what are you doing, Greg? Like, take care of it, brother.
he didn't have the Zack Ryder tan. He's not going to the tan.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
He was rocking that Roy Fox tan. It was good.
Exactly. I think I'm shocked you said that was the best Greg Valentine match you've ever seen, because he was a super solid worker back in the day.
He was. No, but I loved the hostility after he lost.
Yeah.
And he started taking the belt and smashing it up against the cage. And like the announcers were like, oh, Tito's holding it up even though it's mangled and destroyed. But that doesn't matter. He's the champion. Like, that was cool. But like it was a lot of good working from Valentine, being the heel, being the pissed off. Like, this little guy is not going to beat me, because Greg's a big dude, man.
Yeah.
But I thought that was one of his better outings for sure.
But do you know what came from that with Greg smashing the Intercontinental title?
They got the new title.
Yes, you got the classic Intercontinental title from that moment. So that's a big moment right there for that match.
100%. No, the history prevails. And that's the hard thing about what we're doing with this. We're not going to know all the stories that wrap into it, but I feel like us talking about it afterwards, and like just how you just said, the importance of him thrashing that title up against the cage is that we got the new title out of it. So like, even if me or you don't know it, our listeners might not know it either. And it's good that we're recapping that kind of the history behind it and going out of it. So that's important too.
Yeah, and I don't know, how much Tito Santana have you seen in your day? I'm kind of curious about
Not much.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of Manitor.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, that's what I mean. I was born in '87, so I caught a lot of weird, goofy shit from WWF.
So Tito's best run, and here's something funny I'm going to show you right here. I just happen to have it here. Tito, I grew up on Staten Island. I've said that 1,000 times. I met Tito Santana at Staten Island Cable back in the mid '80s, and here's that autograph. I don't know if you can actually see it.
Nice.
I just found it the other day. It just happens to Tommy from Tito Santana Arriba. He was promoting the Disney Channel.
Hey.
So I think it's kind of cool that I just found out. I was so happy when I found it, because I remember the day I got to meet him there.
That's cool.
He was sitting right next to the Mets shortstop, Rafael Santana.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
in alphabetical order. Very nice.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. Man, I'm gonna have to send you some more Tito matches because him in the mid '80s, he was very intense. He had some
Yeah,
great matches back then that I feel like gets overlooked. As a matter of fact, did you know at the time they put the title on Bret Hart, it was either going to be Tito Santana or Bret Hart?
I did know that. So
Yeah,
that's yeah, but
how
it's I mean,
crazy.
imagine what history would have been if it was Tito and not Brett.
How does that change history, man? That's crazy
Yeah,
to think that. When I've only found that out, within the last few years or so, maybe from Tito's podcast. I think that might have been the first time it came out. Um, I was shocked to learn that they even were considering it because Tito was a big, he was like the number 2 guy behind Hogan for a while
yeah,
in that whole
absolutely.
company.
But that's
Yeah,
that's why I said this was it was a solid match, and it's got nothing to do against the workers or the
yeah,
workings of it. But like as a cage match, this could have been not a cage match, and it would have
yeah.
just been it might have been better. You know what I mean? I don't think
You
they
don't
needed
get
the
the
cage.
whole you don't get the whole him kicking the door in his face to close it,
Yes. So
so
there's
I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. Like, it was like a kind of a tale of 2 stories in that whole match.
yeah. If I
Again,
was
we
enthralled into the build up, I think I probably
yeah,
would have been more over with it. But I was just like, okay, it was a
yeah.
quick cage match. It was a good match though. I'm not nowhere near crapping on it.
No, yeah, I didn't feel like you're right. Like I said, my biggest wish going back to watch it was that we had the original announcing and not a voiceover
Yeah,
announcing. That was the biggest thing I took away from it. That was the biggest hurt for me
yeah.
rewatching it.
And I get that,
So,
man. Imagine if we threw on Attitude Era and Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler weren't doing the commentary, or if it was like a dumbed down version of Jim Ross and
oh
Jerry
no,
Lawler.
you got Michael
Yeah,
Cole doing voiceovers.
yeah. And which I mean,
Oh,
we haven't not seen that before, so we all know the pain of
yes.
that.
That is true. But
Yeah,
okay, so that's definitely an interesting match. If you can go find it. It was on the greatest grudge matches on the WWE network from 1986. So if you want to see it on the WWE network on Peacock, just look for that video. Just type in grudge, do a search, it comes right up.
absolutely.
So
Or you
Mike,
could do
why
what
don't
you did, and you sent me the YouTube. So the YouTube
yeah,
link was just as good, and it
yeah,
was great. I enjoyed it.
yeah. So tell the people what you picked for the staple to watch
Well,
that I've
you
never
know,
seen.
I can't start with the trash parts of WCW. You gotta earn that, you know. And I didn't want to go full violence with an ECW extreme match. I wanted you to get some of the best pro wrestling that you could have watched before the 90s happened. And it was right on the tail end of the 80s, you know. But
1989 this match was.
yeah, and I want to say that WrestleWar, which was the
Yeah.
show it was on, I think it was a later show in the year.
I
So I
think it
don't
was
think it was like
October.
yeah, so it wasn't like a summer show. It wasn't like January. It was going towards right into the 90s, and I could not pick a Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat match for you not to see because this is some of their best work. And I know we've seen Steamboat and Savage. This predates that. You know, we've seen all these great matches, but I think if this Flair Steamboat feud would have never happened, there would be no Steamboat Savage. There would be no Ric Flair coming to WWF later on. I feel like there's there's some good wrestling going on here, and it really proved both
However,
men could roll.
this was after WrestleMania 3.
Oh, was it? See,
Yes.
this is why you're the staple.
I
And I'm,
I went back and researched it because I was
there we
kind of
go.
curious as to where it was on the timeline.
Rock and roll. So, but
Because
either way,
I noticed he came out with his son, Ricky Steamboat, which he also did at
yes.
WrestleMania 3. So I'm like, oh, let me go see exactly when this was in
Okay,
timeline compared to WrestleMania 3.
gotcha.
So,
But I mean,
like,
Steamboat wrestled a lot in NWA, WCW, especially before his WWF time. So it's good. It's good to see.
after
But
and
yeah, and
yeah,
all over the place. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this was a hell of a match to introduce you into something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you one of the things I loved about it. Like before the match even started, I loved the big match feel they made it have. Like
Absolutely.
they had 3 judges at ringside. They had Luthez, Pat O'Connor, and Terry Funk. You
What a
know,
better 3 judges. I wrote that was one of the only notes I took on this match because it was like, how awesome is you got 3 legends. And when it was Pat
yeah,
O'Connell, the only person from New Zealand to ever win the title, right?
Terry Funk, the only one of the only two brother pair, the only brother pair to ever hold a world title.
Yeah,
Like
beautiful stuff.
it had such a big match feel. Like it felt special. Like, and
Yeah,
this is me watching it 32 years later.
absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So it was already like a big, we got a humongous matchup here of two greats before they were even established into that form of all greatness. So we
Yeah.
got Ric Flair, who we all know went on to do another 25 years worth of working. Steamboat the same. I mean, Steamboat never stopped.
It's funny. One of my notes here is one of the comments Jim Ross made was, this could be Flair's last chance to get a world championship run, and this was
Baby,
back in 1989.
baby Jim Ross too.
Baby Jim Ross.
Yeah, it was before he did the mouth turn, so it's a very fluent Jim Ross. It's great.
Yeah. Another thing I never noticed, I never knew, sad on my part, and I'm so glad we're doing this for this type of reasons. I never even realized Ricky Steamboat was a world champion.
Yeah, see, that's how crazy is that? Something that
Yeah.
WWF never really did well,
Acknowledged.
Yeah, but he was a great
dude, like one of the most underrated wrestlers probably in history.
Yeah,
Like so good, so good,
absolutely.
so good.
Yeah.
The other thing I love that they announced before, just as it got started, they're talking about the referee Tommy Young being like 5-time referee of the year.
Yeah, how cool is that? Acknowledging the referees.
Acknowledging the referee and saying, "Hey, this is a big match. We're putting a big referee in there for this big match because that's what it deserves."
And I know before we were starting this, you told me that the WWE Network version skipped the entrances, right?
Oh, that was me because I was fast forwarding.
Oh, okay. I thought it was because of them.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like you told me there were entrances. I wish I would have went back and watched it, and I will watch it now.
Absolutely. No, this is so Ric Flair comes out and he's got the line, the whole entranceway is lined with women. There must have been 40 different girls there, and 5 of them come up to the ring with him. They all sit on the rope for him. They treat him like he's the royalty Ric Flair that he is. It was so cool to see. And then we get Steamboat's got this awesome entrance. His kid's on a horse. His wife's walking down with them, and they're walking to the ring together. He comes in the ring. He's holding his kid. He's like, I'm ready to fight. Like it was, like you said, a big fight feel, really big fight feel.
Yes, it felt special
on both parts. And like, we haven't even gotten to the action yet. You know what I mean? So that's the cool part. So you're already enthralled with it. You're already like, damn, some shit's about to go down here.
Yeah. It was just leading up to the match. It felt special. Like I've never seen judges sitting at ringside because the match was so important. They need a winner, and I'm just gonna throw this out there before we even get started. But when we see Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega too, I would love to see them do the same type of thing.
Absolutely, 60-minute time limit draw. You know what I mean?
Time limit. You have judges there. There's gonna be a winner no matter what.
Yeah, and like you got to respect that fact that they did that so long ago, and people are downplaying this 30-minute time limit draw between Danielson and Kenny Omega, but like this is just the beginning. This is the build up to it. You want a second part to it. You want to be hungry. 100%. Just because you had a little piece of bread doesn't mean you're full. You want a sandwich. You want a pizza. You want a big meal. So I love about it. But like you're throwing out this Daniel Bryanson and Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega feel. This match screamed Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson. You've seen some really intimate, intimidating wrestling here, where it wasn't just crazy moves. You're looking at these guys were locked in at each other.
This was wrestling.
Collar elbow tie-ups, arm locks, slapping each other in the face, beating the piss out of each other.
Just a chop fest.
Yeah.
Which reminded me again of Omega and Danielson. Had to be a throwback. I felt like they had to go back and watch this match before they did their match.
At least some of it, because there was a lot of good
the whole thing, but there was definitely parts that reminded me of it.
Yeah.
Because again, back then you're probably talking about the 2 best in the business back then, compared to the 2 best in the business right now.
Absolutely.
So,
listen, there wasn't a moment to breathe during this match.
No.
They were on each other the whole time. There was no You know, if there was a botch, I didn't see one because
No,
like
it
they
was
did
a work of
such a
art.
good job. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to show you this match first. I feel like this is what wrestling is, man. You know, like you lose it sometimes when you're watching the WWF, WWE, and there's a lot of good stuff like this out there. And this is just like, hey, let me show you my side of the world because I love WWF, I love WWE, I was a big fan, but like I knew about the outside stuff, which made me a fan of the other thing. Like I watched Nitro just as much as I did Raw
Yeah.
because I know that this is what came from that's what came from this, you know. So I was expecting good wrestling out of him, which sometimes there was, sometimes there wasn't.
Now, there was something in this match I haven't seen in so long. That's so simple and nobody does anymore.
Oh, what do you got?
You know what I'm talking about?
I want to hear it. I want to hear
Okay.
it.
When Steamboat was standing on the outside of the apron and Flair just pulls the ropes and pulls them back and he comes flying in over the rope.
Yeah,
Nobody does that anymore.
nobody does that. I don't
Why
know
does
why
nobody
either.
do that?
Yeah,
Like I don't get it.
it's easy
Like
stuff,
it's
man.
such a great spot and it doesn't need to be overdone, but I haven't seen that in years.
Yeah,
And I love seeing that again.
that was
And it's just
cool.
like to go back, the other thing you never see anybody do with what Macho Man used to do. Again, it's a simple move. When Macho Man would go and run and grab the guy over the top rope and he would jump to the floor and just snap him, and the
Yeah,
guy would just go flying back. Like, how does like Kenny Omega not pick that up and do that?
yeah. I'm sure it's in the repertoire somewhere. You know,
It's
maybe he
got to
just
be in
hasn't.
somebody's repertoire because
Yeah,
I love seeing that move today. I don't even know what you call the rope.
it's like a snap. I don't know, snapback.
Yeah,
That's what I would
snapback.
call it. You know, something
I
like that.
haven't
Snap.
I I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I love seeing it.
'cause it's
Like just
like
that little spot.
that's why I love going back because like you kind of see what people picked up on after all these years. You know, and
Yeah.
you know, you seen like what was it, the Bret Hart and 1-2-3 Kid match that CM Punk and Darby Allin were kind of based off of, you know,
Yeah.
where it was, you know, they both was like old guy, new kid.
Yep.
There was a lot of same spots in the match, but like
Yeah.
nobody would put it together unless you were an avid diehard wrestling fan,
Yeah.
you know. So there was, it's cool to see when people pick up on little things like that. They balance them all out. But I
Was
thought
it
this was
was it Steamboat who did it to Flair the snapback? I think it was Steamboat who did
I
it to
think it was
Flair.
Steamboat who did it to Flair.
Because it's a
Flair is a
perfect
seller.
move for the guy who doesn't want to get in the ring and you do that.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, and
um
Flair, he totes it all the time. He's the guy that sells the most out of the matches. You know, he's taking all the damage. You can see it when you watch these things. And then
yeah.
like when he pulls these wins out of his ass, you're like, what? What the hell just happened? Like, how did Brick? That's why he's there.
And
He's
we'll
playing
get
the
to
game.
that.
Yeah, come
We'll
on,
get
let's
to
keep.
that. We're not even there yet.
I'm
I
excited,
loved
man.
even back then, Jim Ross got little digs in at WWF.
Yeah,
He said, "This isn't rock and roll. This is pro
yeah.
wrestling, folks."
That's
So,
Ross knew, you know, he was
yeah.
always working it. He was always working
Uh,
it hard too, man. But I love
let's
it,
face the
man.
facts. Jim Ross is a pro wrestling guy. He's
Absolutely.
exactly where he needs to be right now in AEW.
Yeah.
You
And
know, and it's,
you're gonna see more of that out of his older stuff. Like
yeah,
he was always a wrestler, a pro wrestling guy, man. He didn't play
yeah.
those games. Hey, rock and roll, baby. You know.
And then there was even I didn't even take the note on this, but at some point he made a mistake and said the wrong thing, and it's
Yeah,
like big friggin' deal. If he did that today, it'd blow up Twitter and Instagram.
100%. But
It's like,
that's the
shut up, people. Like Michael Cole does it every friggin' week. Every announcer. Excalibur did it the one night he announced the wrong main event.
yeah,
Jericho was sitting next to him and he said Jericho was in the main event. It was on a rampage. Like people make mistakes. Stop
it happens.
criticizing JR.
It's all
Listen,
life, man.
since they've went on the road, JR has been amazing again. Like I think JR has found his groove. Like this is the JR we've always known and loved. That's been announcing since they've been live in crowds again. They
Yeah.
feed. I guess even the announcers feed off the crowd.
No, of
So,
course. Absolutely.
so,
It's a crowd based business, you
so,
know, like it's good stuff.
so I love hearing the announcing of how far into the match they are in the background.
Yeah.
I love hearing it. I love that they getting updates on the judges' scores
Yeah.
throughout to make it feel big. Like,
Absolutely.
and throughout the match, Ricky Steamboat was on top. And
Yeah.
as my uncle always said, that he never saw a guy like Ricky Steamboat who would be dominating most of his matches and then go on and lose.
Yeah, but that's
And
the thing. Like, it's an art,
yeah,
That's why Steamboat was so good. That's why WWE booked him the way they did, is because he was so good at doing these long, valiant effort matches where he's doing most of the work, picking up on all the stuff, and then boom, he's out. 1, 2, 3, or maybe a tap, whatever you want to call it. Things. But that's the art of Steamboat. The Flair did the same thing, but in reverse. Flair would get
yeah.
his ass kicked all these matches all the time, and then he'd come back at the end and like hit him with the low blow, and then slap him in the figure four. Like that's the beauty of it, man. He was a great heel. Steamboat was a great face, man.
Yeah. And you got in this match, you got heel Ric Flair,
Oh yeah. Woo!
But again, it's just a pure straight up wrestling match pretty much.
Yeah.
And it was so good. And then at the end, Flair wins with the cradle.
Yeah.
Shocked the shit out of me.
Wait, what did he win with?
The inside cradle.
Who does that anymore?
Yeah.
When was the last time you seen a cradle done to end a championship match?
Yeah.
Or such a big fight match. Crazy.
Yeah. And then you get the good guy, the face, congratulating him on the win.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, I don't remember that ever happening back in the day. Like,
no, that's what made it stand out. It's such a beautiful put together match. Just some of the spots. Like, I love when they're in the corner and they do that where they're getting in each other's face and Flair slaps him, and then Steamboat looks at him and he slaps him back, and then you start slapping the shit out of each other.
And who expects Steamboat to slap a guy?
Exactly.
Like, Steamboat was the most faced wrestler ever. I don't think he was ever a heel for a day in his life.
Yeah.
And he turns around and he slaps Ric Flair.
You see that, you get the feel, not only see it, but you feel that intensity throughout the whole match. These guys are not, like I said, you don't get a chance to breathe. There's no spot where they're just laying on the ground like, what is good? What are we doing next, brother? They were just on top of it, just beating the living piss out of each other. And that's the fun of it, man. And then like you said, Flair wins with a cradle. Who wins with a cradle back then to this day and age? Like, you just don't see it happen that often, especially on a big ass match like that.
No,
it's crazy.
No, you don't.
I love it, man.
It was a work of art. It really was.
Yeah.
It very much reminded me of Bryanson, Danielson, and Omega.
Yeah.
It made me hope that they do the same similar type of thing with judges, making it build up to how important the match is when they fight
totally
again.
You
and
can
I
get
think
you
they
can get
will.
a bunch of people to be judges for AEW.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, Jake the Snake, Mick Foley, you name it, Eric Bischoff. You got a lot of people that they got a full cannon that they could work with it. It's awesome.
Greg Valentine. Look,
Greg
they brought him
Valentine,
in to watch the dog collar match when
Yeah.
they had Brody and Cody go at it, which was
I mean, how old is Greg Valentine now? He's got to be up there, right?
He's got to be mid-60s at least, right?
Yeah, I met him in 2000. I want to say 13, 14, maybe. He's a big dude still, man.
He's 70 years old.
70 years old. Guy still looks like he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
Tall drink of water. Big bulky guy. Yeah.
And that guy, he could go when he was in a match. His Greg Valentine's matches would last forever.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Like I wasn't trying to say this is some of Greg's best work in that cage match, but I felt in ring storytelling, I thought it was really good. You got a lot of emotion out of him. You got a lot of good big man spots out of him. He didn't take the cage too often, but what's Tito was hitting the cage a lot, and Greg was just powerhousing through it. I thought it was a really solid match, and just I feel like your match and my match both had a good comparison to it.
Yeah,
in a nice way. I feel like the Steamboat, like you had the perfect WWF match. So, and then I combated it with this beautiful NWA match that just was beautiful, just balls to the wall wrestling. It's crazy. It was good. I really enjoyed both. I can't wait to do this more. We're gonna be
doing this. This is going to be a regular occurrence on the sessions. Let me ask you a question though. Let's compare a little bit.
Yeah.
You have Macho Man versus Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. You have Ricky Steamboat against Ric Flair at this. Like, Ricky Steamboat's in two of the greatest matches of all time right there.
Yeah.
What does that say for his legacy? Like, wow.
For sure. I mean, there's So there's a lot of awesome Steamboat Flair matches, as there are Steamboat Savage matches. This was just like the top of them all. Like this is a good buildup of the Steamboat Flair matches, but like I'm telling you, there's Steamboat's a madman, and like you even seen it when he came back and did that little shtick against Jericho.
Yeah, he went like it was still young.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was some of the best stuff you could have seen in that day and age. You know, so we're talking 10 years ago almost.
Yeah. Like the guy is the purest wrestler. He might be the purest wrestler ever.
Yeah, and he still could probably go.
I bet you he could. I would love the one thing about seeing an old Ric Flair match and you see the little hole in his back. Like I had forgotten totally all about that until I saw that. I'm like, man, we need a figure to have the little hole in the back. Like,
oh, absolutely, man. And even in the later WCW like matches that he was in, like you still see like, you know, it's so crazy, man. We need more historical stuff like this because it's just there's so much shit that people forget about, like the hole in the back. You know,
I guess just a little thing like that. It's like, oh my god, I forgot all about that.
Imagine if that was on his Defining Moments figure or his Ultimate figure. How awesome that would be! Like, boom, we got it. It'd be perfect.
I mean, they give Dusty the blotch on his stomach, so
they do, Daddy, they do.
Wow,
yeah, man.
So let's talk about the end of the match. Let's talk about what happens when the match is over because I didn't just shut it off.
Oh, you know, hit me with it, baby.
He shakes, Steamboat shakes his hand. Like, again, I don't remember that back then at all. But then here comes Terry Funk, who apparently had been away from wrestling for a while. Maybe Terry that's when Funk. he was in filming Over the Top, I probably would guess, with Sylvester Stallone. And Flair. And right there, you could tell I'm saying, oh, Flair's turning face here. You could just see it right then and there.
Yeah.
And then, Terry Funk winds up challenging him. And Flair reminds me of AEW saying, we have a top 10 list for a reason. Haven't been around here. And then Terry Funk just attacks Ric Flair and beats him, throws him into the crowd.
Beautiful.
Into the cheapest railing I think I've ever seen separating the crowd from a ring. Which
it's
again,
WCW, man.
Yeah,
NWA.
NWA. It wasn't even WCW. So what a build that would have been for whenever their match took place.
Yeah, and listen, Terry did some great stuff. I love that they kind of just kept that capsule of Southern wrestling with NWA, with the Texas stuff with Terry Funk. Like there's a lot of awesome stuff there, but Terry Funk is a bad mamma jamma. You don't want to mess with him.
Oh yeah.
Even now, he's still, good old Terry Funk. He talks really quiet, but he'll beat the living piss out of you if it ever happened. I would watch Flair versus Terry Funk nowadays. If they want to add it now, it would probably be a fucking great entertaining match.
Listen, I remember back to when I was a kid when Terry Funk had his first run in WWF. Do you remember that at all? You ever seen that?
Probably not.
Okay. I'm going to find a video clip for you because he went to go hand Mel Phillips, who was the ring announcer, goes to hand him his stuff to take it to the back, and Mel Phillips did something that annoyed him, and Terry Funk just beat the crap out of him.
That was Terry Funk, though,
and I think he wound up branding him. And I just remember that as a kid thinking, oh my God, this Terry Funk guy is nuts. And I believe he was in a tag team match with his brother. And I think it was on Wrestling Challenge.
Okay.
I remember. So I'm going to have to look for
sounds
that.
like a good time.
Yeah. And back when WWF did interesting stuff. So
yeah. No, you never have a dull moment with the Funks. Never. No. Ever.
No, but this was definitely, it's fun, paying homage to history and looking back at these matches that maybe we have never seen or,
Absolutely.
I already know the match I'm picking for next time.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm borderline close to knowing, but I know I'm gonna throw you through some loopholes. It's not gonna be all NWA for a while, and then we're gonna move on to early WCW and going Shotgun Saturday Nights and all this. I want to do some cool stuff, so I might switch it up and do. I think I'm gonna go with an ECW match next time.
Ooh,
This could be good, and I'll include the little promo clip before it too, because I want it to build up for you. I want you to know what's going on, because if you go into some of those ECW matches, you'll be like, what is this? Because there's a lot of crazy shit going on sometimes. But I will make sure that you're caught up on the previous history of it. We're going to talk about all of it because we need to, it's important to put history in the capsule and make sure it's not getting edited by a network or anything. We want you to see and feel the real stuff. So before everything gets edited and changed and revamped and to look all polished and crazy, we're gonna try to get to some good stuff.
Exactly. Listen, guys, thank you for joining us today. If you're not already, make sure you're following us on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. We go live there 4 times a week. You can watch this show. If you're listening to the podcast, this is streamed every Wednesday at 3 p.m. So you can go and watch us. We got the Fig Night every Thursday. We're in the middle of a big contest. So go check out the details over there. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We're now on TikTok. We got to push the TikTok. Some fun videos going on over there. Some highlights from our shows. We're going to have some other fun stuff going on there.
Yeah. Tom's going to dance.
I'm going to dance.
That's what you do on TikTok. I don't know.
Okay.
Just throw that out there.
I don't dance.
It's okay.
Nobody wants to see me dance. Nobody wants to check out my personal TikTok.
But you were at the first dance.
I was at the first dance.
So I mean, we got to do something there.
That's true. I was at the first dance. Listen, the turnbuckletavern.com. Get all of our links. You could go to prowrestlingtees.com/tavern and buy some shirts. You could go to our other store and buy some more fun merch. That's it for now, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday. I'll be back next Wednesday. We'll be back doing another one of these in a few weeks, and I can't wait to do it again. Thank you for joining us, Mike Belcaster. We will
anytime.
We will talk to you all soon. Love, peace, and wrestling.